The Honorable Erica Woodford was elected Bibb County Superior Court Clerk in 2012 and is currently serving her third term. Prior to being elected as clerk, Ms. Woodford served the Middle Georgia community for almost 2 decades, serving in the judiciary as a civil court judge and magistrate, operating a private law practice, and teaching at the university level. Ms. Woodford has diligently worked to improve access to the courts by hiring multilingual staff, modernizing court technology, and training the office staff on effective customer service skills. She initiated the Enslaved People Project, in which records of the selling and purchasing of Africans as slaves from 1823 through to the 1860s were digitized for public access. Ms. Woodford serves on the State Bar of Georgia's Committee on Professionalism and is the Vice President of the Council of Georgia Superior Court Clerks. She earned her BA from Mercer University in 1997 and her JD from Cumberland School of Law at Samford University in 2000. Everyone, please help me in welcoming Erica Woodford to the Georgia Archives. Thank you.
Greetings. How's everyone doing today? Wonderful. Good afternoon. Again, I am Erica Woodford. I am the Clerk of Superior Court of Bibb County, Georgia. And for those of you who do not know, Bibb County is in the heart of Georgia. Our city is Macon. So right in the middle of the state, we have Bibb County, Georgia. So I am the Superior Court Clerk there in Bibb County. And thank you, Ms. Robin, for making this a seamless process and for your kind invitation today. I would also like to thank the Georgia Archives for the impact that you have on our state and for your preservation and education efforts. This afternoon, I would like to share with you some information about the most impactful project of my career, the Enslaved People Project. The Enslaved People Project is a labor of love that has been ongoing for the past 10 years. And also after the presentation today, we will have the opportunity for questions and answers. And I also brought one of our display books here that will display some of the records that are discussed today. So this Enslaved People Project, again, has been a labor of love for over 10 years. The seed for this project was planted in 2013, my first year in office as clerk. And sidebar, for those of you who do not know, the Clerk of Superior Court is the official record keeper of the county. The Clerk of Superior Court is a constitutional officer in the state of Georgia. So you have your 4 constitutional officers in each of our 159 counties. You have the Clerk of Superior Court, the sheriff, the probate judge, as well as the tax collector or tax commissioner. And these positions were created in the Georgia Constitution. So during my first year as clerk, one day I was just doing a routine inventory. I visited the mezzanine, which is in our vault. So we have a vault in the middle of our office, and upstairs we have a mezzanine area. And that's where we have hundreds, if not thousands, of old books, documents, and cases. So I was visiting the mezzanine, and I decided to just pull down one of these very large old books. And I opened the book, and it was a deed book. So we all know what deeds are. They're property records. You may sell your house and you'll get a warranty deed, quitclaim deed. So property records. So I pulled down the deed book, I opened the book, and I read the record. And it said, I, Alexander Bryan, am selling the following Negro girl, Harriet, age 11, fair complexion, long straight hair, wanted to be sound and well for $225. And just as you are shocked, I was floored. If I had any hair on the back of my neck, it would have been standing. Okay. I was amazed, shocked, dumbfounded, whatever word you can think of, that's how I was feeling. And so I decided, oh my gosh, like, this is crazy, right? To find in the deed book a transaction selling a human as property. So I went downstairs, I grabbed Stephanie Woods Miller, the chief deputy clerk, and I said, Stephanie, you have got to see this. Brought her upstairs, and she was equally shocked and amazed. And, we knew that something had to be done with these records. And so what happened? What did we do? I reached out to one of my dear friends, Dr. Chester Fontenot, pictured on the slide. He is the professor, the department chair of Africana Studies at Mercer University, and also the religion, or one of the teachers in the religious studies department. And so, as a dear friend, we went to lunch and we discussed what I found. I took him back to the office and showed him. He was equally amazed. And of course, we had to do something with these records. So at that time, a collaboration was born. He helped us to figure out the methodology of what to do with these records, how to do it. And so, as you see on the slide, he's pulling down one of the books that I found in 2013 with the records of slavery. So with Dr. Fontenot, with Stephanie Woods Miller, we formed what I like to call the dream team. We got together with two research librarians. You'll see on the far left of the screen, back row, Adam and Stephanie. Front row, you'll see myself, and you'll see the other Stephanie, Stephanie Woods Miller in black. You'll see Dr. Fontenot, and in the middle, you will see one of our first interns. So we figured that we needed to document the records, we needed to preserve the records, we needed to digitize the records. So through a grant from Research That Reaches Out, we were able to hire interns, and Tiffany and Addison were our first interns. We also got some community volunteers from all over the state to start combing through the records. Now, one of the first steps in combing through the records, as you see on the background, is cursive. The research librarians had to teach the students how to read cursive, which is not taught today, and how to read this old 1800s cursive, which is hard for even the most proficient cursive reader to read. So they taught the students how to read cursive. The students and the volunteers got together at various times in the office, and they went through all 18 volumes. Each of these books contain close to 1,000 pages of records. So they looked through every record to start, the process. So how did we start that process? When they combed through those records that were found in the mezzanine, we knew we had to document what we found. So upon reading the records, again, some records conveyed land, some records conveyed humans, some records conveyed both humans and property. So for example, one record might say, I'm selling this Negro girl, Harriet. Another record might say, I'm selling 1,000 acres or 100 acres and 100 Negroes. Okay. So after combing through the records, and this took a few years to do. We started this in 2018, and it took about 3.5 years for the students, the volunteers, and some of the staff in our real estate division and other staff in the clerk's office to look through each of these pages of these books, as well as to go back. So we had to do 2 looks. We had to at least verify what the other person documented. So it took a while. At the end of the day, we documented close to 1,000 property deeds conveying humans as slaves. And in these conveyances, you would see anything from 1/2 interest in a Negro man named John to hundreds of humans being sold as slaves. These deeds were recorded from 1823 until the last deed conveying an interest in a human being was recorded June 12th of 1865, and it was filed in office December 1st of 1865. Some of you are looking puzzled because we have learned in school that the Emancipation Proclamation was signed on January 1st, 1863, and slavery was abolished with the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, February 1, 1865. So again, one of our last deeds was executed June 12th of 1865 and filed in office December 1st of 1865. So after documentation came the process of digitization. Through funding from our local government, from Macon Bibb County, I secured funds to scan all of our land records. So it was a very interesting process. Anyway, we scanned all of our land records from 1823 to present. We did that in 2 phases, so 1823 to 1950, and then 1950 to present. Once we scanned all those records, well, the process of scanning included our land records vendor, COT Systems, coming down to Georgia from Ohio with a truckload of equipment. So they brought the printers, the scanners, copiers, so that they could copy our records. Of course, I was not sending all of these volumes up to Atlanta because, or I'm sorry, up to Ohio, because again, this was a treasure. It was like striking gold. So I was not willing to let go of those books. However, we did have maybe 3 or 4 books that they could not copy in the office because the binding was stuck. So they couldn't get those loose to actually copy. So I did let go of 3 or 4, and those were returned safely and in order. So once they came down, scanned all of our property records, all of our land records and property records are now accessible to the public through our public record search site called eSearch. So citizens can search our property records for free. For the Enslaved People Project, we got with COT Systems and we actually curated a website to display these records. So the site is called Record Hub, and I will show you the link to the site later. But in this site, you can search the records by name, by description. So whatever your search term, if you type in bronze, then it will pull up all the records containing the word bronze, and you might find Susie, Negro girl, bronze complexion. Or you might type in the word Smith, and all the transactions with a Smith will populate. So whether the Smith is a buyer, a seller, or the human being sold. So this public site for the Enslaved People Project is very unique in that it is focused on the person who was enslaved. So that's our main character. That's the person that's most important to us in these records. And this site is a living, breathing site. So we not only have these records of slavery, these property deeds, we also have ancillary records. So for example, our historic preservation clerk would look at our library for records, and our library has records of the Macon Telegraph dating all the way back to the 1800s. So if there were any advertisements published in the paper selling a human that was listed in our deed books, then we would tie that record to the search, if that makes sense. So any other ancillary documents, those are also in this site. And what's also great about the site is that it's free. I wanted to make sure that this site, that the public, the world, was able to see primary source documentation, records of slavery, especially today when we have a lot of misinformation, disinformation, uneducation that's prevalent and pervasive. There have been active efforts to say, hey, slavery didn't exist, this did not happen. We don't want to teach about it. We don't want students to learn about our rich history. And so these records are free so that anyone can log in, you can sign up, create your account, and you can search these records and you can see firsthand what happened in Macon, Georgia, which is also reflective of what happened in the state of Georgia, in the United States, and in fact, in the world. Another unique thing about the project is that it tangentially sheds light on what's called urban slavery. Now, when I was at school at Mercer University, one of my majors was African American Studies. I did not learn about urban slavery. I had not heard the term urban slavery until recently. In fact, this year. You know, sometimes on Facebook or on social media, we see people post, I was today old, you know, when I learned whatever. So I was just a few months ago old when I learned about urban slavery. I think I'll put my glasses on because I'm visually challenged. So one thing that we need to know is that, you know, in school, we were all taught, or based on our own research, we heard of slavery and we learned about enslaved people in fields, picking cotton, or, you know, other cash crops, or they were in homes as domestics. That's what we learned. But, you know, what I found is that through my research, Macon, Georgia has such a rich history. Macon was, in fact, a commercial and economic hub in the state of Georgia and was one of the fastest growing cities during the antebellum era. And again, Macon is right in the heart of Georgia. We have the Ocmulgee River, so that's a mode of transportation. We had the railroads being built. There was a route, I believe, from Macon to, I think it was called the King's Road or King Cotton, something like that. And so, you know, Macon, again, was the center of commerce. So all these surrounding counties that had plantations, that had cash crops, they would come to Macon to sell those goods. So as a commercial hub, in 1860, records also show that Macon was the fifth largest city with a high percentage of enslaved people, only behind Columbus and Savannah. So urban slavery looked like this in Macon. Enslaved people were hired out to work on steamboats and other river-related trades. We have records of advertisements looking for, they call them slave boat hands. So there are advertisements. These enslaved people were hired out to work on steamboats where, of course, commerce, cotton, goods, humans were being sold, and they were going, you know, by route or by way of the steamboats. And this was so important that the Macon Council incorporated the Macon Insurance Company to make sure that these enslaved boat hands were covered, the goods that were being sold were covered, and the boats were also covered. Our deed books also show where railroads actually leased enslaved people to build the railroad infrastructure. In 1836, this is very interesting, the city of Macon's commission was granted $10,000 to purchase 8 humans to do road work and to hire a county clerk. So the city of Macon purchased humans to do road work. So enslaved people in these urban areas also did road work and infrastructure building. Those humans purchased by the city, they were purchased for approximately $700 each. And when you use the US inflation calculator in 2024, that would equate to $25,422 per human. Enslaved people also worked in foundries, mills, factories, so other industrial work. They even worked in some of the cotton mills until the legislature passed a law that said it was illegal for enslaved people to work in these cotton mills because that was taking away jobs from white men. Enslaved people in Macon performed all sorts of trades, from blacksmiths to carpenters to spinning fabrics to domestics to even architecture and construction. You all, if you pass through Macon, you know that we have some lovely historic homes. One of those historic homes was the Asher Ayers house. This was a 5-story house with a observation deck on the corner of 3rd and Walnut Street. And this was built entirely by Mr. Asher Ayers' enslaved men. And the two leading the charge, the two enslaved men leading that charge, were Primus Moore and Ben Jackson. So some very talented artisans, craftsmen, tradesmen. So this is how urban slavery looked. So let's transition. I know this is heavy for a lot of you, or probably for all of you. Very weighty information that we're covering, but it's also, very necessary. It shows our shared history. And I mean, you all are genealogists, you're historians, you're nerds like me. And so you may also find this information maybe disturbing, but maybe fascinating as well. So let's transition. This is the landing page for our curated website for the Enslaved People Project. And again, you can create a free account on recordhub.cotsystems.com. However, COT is not just a Georgia vendor, they have other states. So you would have to, once you sign up, you would select Georgia and you would select Bibb County. And again, this is free. And so it's a free site housing primary source records of property deeds of slavery that are in possession of the official record keeper. Once you create your account, you select Bibb County, Georgia, and you'll reach this landing page. Now, this is the page where you can go into the little search bar and you can type in whatever words you like to type in. Okay, so if you want to type in Harriet, you would type in the word Harriet and you would click the little magnifying glass, and then all the deeds containing Harriet would populate. So where do you begin when you're searching for genealogy purposes, just for research and history purposes? You would try to figure out which name, who are you searching for? And you can either type in that full name, and if that doesn't populate, then you can narrow it down. For example, Smith, SMI asterisk. Or you see other examples, Wood or Woods, Kitchen, Kitchings, Kitchens. So different variations. So you can type in that partial name and an asterisk. You can also narrow the search or broaden the search by typing in date range, that sort of thing. So when you search our records, you can use a simple search. Again, you can type in anything. You can search the buyer, the seller, the notary. We have all of that information documented in the system. Race, gender, complexion, trade. If you type in carpenter, then you might find some transactions where Henry, a Negro slave carpenter, was being sold. So again, you can narrow your search and you can type in anything that you're interested in finding. If you look on this page again, we just talked about narrowing the search, but once you narrow your search and you click enter, you'll see a page that looks like this. So on this page, you see all the Smiths that we were searching for. You see the date, So the first item says 9/12/1821. Next, it says type, SLRE, human only. So that's slave record, human only. You may see a slave record that has non-human or human and non-human. So that would be, I'm selling a person and I'm selling some things or land. Okay. Party one, Caroline or Carolyn. So that is the human that was being sold. Next, party two, James and Linda Smith. James Leon or Lion, I can't read today. The borrower, okay, James Smith, the lender, James Lyon, the borrower, address Twiggs County. And again, you'll see different counties. The third entry, you see McIntosh County. Again, Macon was a trading hub, so people came from all over to purchase humans right in the heart of Georgia. Then you see the description. So first line, $39. Negro girl named Carolyn, about 15 years old. Then you'll see the book and page, A277. So that's deed book A, page 277. Third entry, you see George Smith of Bibb County and Anson Kimberly of McIntosh County, $2,150. 8 Negroes, Moses, Mariah, Hannah, Abraham, Marianne, Nancy, Simon, and Richard. In deed book C, page 49. So again, you can type in a name, you can type in a complexion, a description, a trade. Those items will populate and whatever you've searched for will be highlighted, just like Smith is highlighted on this screen because we were searching for Smith. To select the record, you simply click on the magnifying glass to open the record. A page from that deed book will appear regarding the transaction. The types of transaction can be a traditional sale. It could be a collateral loan. It could be inheritance from an estate. It could be a marriage agreement or a deed of gift. And another type of document that we have apprenticeship records. So an apprenticeship is when a free person of color could not just be out on his own managing himself. So if that free person of color was under the age of majority, let's say under 21 or under 18, they had to be an apprentice under a white male to learn a trade. So it could be blacksmithing, it could be farming, it could be spinning, whatever the trade, carpentry. So we have those records as well. So to view a record, the pages selected will appear and you will see the actual image of our original record. So you will see the image of our deed books. Then on the side, on the right side of the page, you'll see a description. You'll see some language. And this language, if it's hard for you to read this cursive writing, like it's hard for me, you'll see a direct translation of what is in the document. So we wanted to make sure that this site was user-friendly. And although, searching could be cumbersome, we did the hard work of translating this very difficult cursive writing. So for example, in this book, we see that it is a slave record, human only, recorded on 2/1/1832. Instrument date was 1/31/1832. Scan pages 4, book C, page 324, $2,900. The following Negroes in my possession, to wit, Lucinda, a woman about 38 years of age, Betsy, a girl about 18 years of age, Mariah, a girl about 16 years of age, Isabel, about 11 years of age, Frank, a boy about 8 years of age, Euphron, 2 years old, Charity, a girl 17 years old, Phoebe, a girl about 6 years old, Stack, woman about 33 years of age, Oliver, a boy about 5 years of age, Joseph, a lad about 19 years of age, and Emmanuel, a boy about 3 years old. So again, it's free. You can search the records, and we've done the hard part of translating or transcribing for you. And we've also had a second look, a second set of eyes to make sure that what the first person typed out is accurate. And of course, the printer records, you click the printer icon, or you can save a digital copy. And once you print as PDF, and that way you can save it on your computer. Now, I will tell you this is a free search site. You can search for free, but you have to pay to play. The statute requires that I collect 50 cents per image. So if you are printing the documents or you've been printing to PDF, you still have to pay that 50 cents per image. But again, that is in the statute, and every clerk's office has to charge that 50 cents. And in fact, we could charge $1 per image for digital images per statute, but we're giving you the discount rate. Pardon me? Yes, ma'am.
Anything like PayPal or something like that.
Right, correct. So when you create, the question was, can you pay on the site? And yes, you can. When you create your account, you have to enter a credit card, but you're not charged to just sign up, but you will be charged when you print. So the Enslaved People Project, again, is one of a kind. I feel like we are fortunate in Macon and Bibb County. We're fortunate in this state that we have this treasure for historians, for genealogists, for researchers to use, for those who are just curious about their family history. We're also fortunate because some of the counties in the state of Georgia, their records have been destroyed by either flood, fire, natural disaster. So we were fortunate that these records were stored, hidden away in the mezzanine of our vault. Now, one interesting thing to note, though, is that no one mentioned these records from 1823 until 2013. What's also interesting that I like to share is that the first clerk of court owned humans as slaves, and the first African American clerk unearthed the slaves 190 years later. The question is, what was the date range of the dates in this Enslaved People Project? The range is from 1823 to 1865. 1823 to 1865. So for genealogists, researchers, if you're searching for your family history, the clerk's office has resources that you can use that can aid in your search. So one thing that you can look for, and again, as the official record keeper, each clerk should have these records dating back to the creation of their county. So in Bibb County, 1823. Some other counties maybe earlier, later, but they should have those records unless they were, again, destroyed by flood, fire, natural disaster, or hopefully not intentionally, but or hidden away. So anyway, you can use our records. You can search divorce records. Maybe your great, great, great grandmother was unique and got a divorce back years ago. You can find those divorce records. Land records. You can search land records. That will help you in tracing your family to see where you are from, to see if your family in fact owned that property in Twiggs County or wherever the county. You can also find criminal cases. That's often interesting. Maybe you had an outlaw in the family. Maybe. Civil actions. Maybe there's a civil suit that one of your family members or just, some interesting person in history that you're looking for. So you can use the clerk's office to find these civil suits. And we also have a pardons and parole book in Bibb County and chain gang records. So all of these resources, including the Enslaved People Project, are resources that you all as genealogists, as researchers, as curious humans can use. There's a question. Yes, ma'am.
Slave owners names to the plantations? Okay.
Correct. So the question is for those who are out in the world, in the virtual world, can you find the owners of the enslaved people? Yes, you can. So again, when you go back to the search, you'll see the purchaser and the seller. So those are either the previous owner and the next owner. So you'll be able to find those records, and usually it will say where these folks were. One thing that I failed to mention is that this project is called the Enslaved People Project because normally we hear the word slaves. These were not slaves. They were people who were enslaved. I recently had the opportunity to go on a trip to Accra, Ghana, earlier this year. And it was very interesting to go to the Cape Coast Castle, one of the slave castles, and, to see the dungeons where the men were housed. It was interesting to see the dungeons where the women and children were housed. It was interesting to see the punishment dungeons, and I won't get into that. We can cover that offline. But just to see, how these people who were prisoners of war, so usually there were tribal wars, and during these wars, they would capture their opponents. And these prisoners of war were then sold to people as slaves, right? And so these humans who were sold, and mind you, they were traded for guns so that, if this tribe had a gun, now the next tribe had to capture some people and sell them for guns because you can't be caught in a gun war with a stick, right? So, everybody had to get the guns. So anyway, to see where these people were captured, sometimes tortured, a lot of times tortured, taking on that final route through the castle, well, through underneath, through the tunnel, through the door of no return, onto a ship, across the water, and to America, the Caribbean, South America, wherever, all over the place, all over the world. So just to give dignity to these people who were captured, we call it the Enslaved People Project because they are in fact people who were enslaved. That concludes my TED talk on that. Before I get to the questions and answers, I would like to just highlight and mention some of the people who were instrumental in the project. So, and some of the things that we've done. So in one picture, you see Dr. Fontenot. You see, I forget her name. She's from Historic Macon. We did a talk at Historic Macon. You see Stephanie Woods Miller in the gray dress. You see Julie Grimm in the black. Stephanie is the chief deputy clerk. Julie was the historic preservation clerk who helped. She's a real nerd. She was just digging through all these records, going to the library, finding all of these other resources to tie into the project. From civil cases, criminal cases, she found the minutes from the Macon City Council meeting where the council approved the purchase of humans. In the next picture, you see Dr. Fontenot, and you see myself, you see Stephanie Woods Miller, and in the middle, you see Miss Brenda Sutton Williams, she's over our ADR program, our Alternative Dispute Resolution and Mediation office in Macon and Middle Georgia, but she is also an avid genealogist. So she uses our records all the time to find her history, and for those who she's assisting, she'll help find their history as well. And again, that's Brenda Sutton Williams. We've had exhibits of the Enslaved People Project where actual documents were blown up and put on display, as well as pictures of us going through the process of digitizing and preserving the records. That's been on display at the Tubman Museum, as well as the Douglas Theater in Macon, as well as a temporary gallery called the Canopy Gallery in the Macon Mall, or the old Macon Mall. I also have a picture of some of our real estate team. And this is not all the folks from the office who assisted with the project, but just a snapshot of a few. And really, I didn't ask for their permission, so please don't tell them that I put their pictures up here, but it's better to ask for forgiveness sometimes. So these are a few of the people from the office who assisted with the project and who are still assisting. Because again, this is an ongoing, living, breathing project. We have to be very meticulous about the process to make sure that the records are accurate. We're still using Georgia indexing standards, so the state of Georgia real estate standards, just to, double blind verify that the information again is correct. So we had the students, we had the volunteers, and we have the staff who are making sure that this information is accurate. So currently we have close to 400 of those 1,000 property deed selling humans on the website, as well as other ancillary records that relate to the deed. And so as we continue to verify and find information, then we release the next record onto the site. So again, it is living, breathing, and ever evolving. And I am grateful to be able to work with a group of people who are just so dedicated to making sure that this project has life. So this is our website, recordhub.cotsystems.com. After the chat today, you'll have the opportunity to come up and look at our display book. The display book is actually a book that has 4 or 5 different deeds from all of the volumes. So it's, of course, not 1,000 records, but it might be 5 records from book C and 6 records from the next book and 3 records from the next one. So you'll be able to take a look at that. I'd also like to recognize my big brother, Mr. Sam Oney, who's in the room today. Mr. Sam Oney, back 61 years ago, integrated Mercer University, my alma mater. So I just like to recognize my big brother, Sam Oney, who is a wealth of knowledge and can sometimes be a nuisance. No, I'm just kidding. We have to harass each other. So, and when you love someone, that's when you pick at them. So at this time, I'll take any questions. So does anyone have any questions about the project? Yes, ma'am.
Do you know of any other counties in Georgia who are doing things similar?
Great question. Are there any other counties in Georgia doing a project like this? No, ma'am. Bibb County. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes, Bibb County is the only county that has a project of this sort, not only in the state, but I would dare say in the country. If you can find somewhere where the official record keeper has scanned these documents, presented them on a website free for the public to display, let me know, because I have not seen any other like it. And I've been working on this since 2013. So I would say that we're very fortunate to have this right here in Bibb County. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, are you allowed to mention costs for other counties? Just follow your lead.
Cost?
Yeah, what would it cost? It's a round number, like a millions or hundreds of
Okay.
thousands or.
I would say the cost, and the question is, what's the cost? Can I estimate, I guess, the cost that other counties would incur to do a project like this? So I would say it really depends on the size of the county because that will determine how many records that county actually has. And of course, if the county has the records, first off. But based on size and volume, I would estimate anywhere from hundreds of thousands to millions because it costs a lot of money just to scan these documents. We were fortunate to get interns and volunteers, and the interns were paid through Research That Reaches Out, at least that first summer. And I have in my budget a line item for interns. So instead of having regular office interns to do office work, I hired the interns specifically for this project. So after the funding from the grant from Research That Reaches Out ran out, I just used my regular intern line item to pay these students because of course students need to eat. We don't believe in free work for the students. So again, you have the cost of the students, you have the cost of the staff, because this is not our day job. This is not our normal job. Our normal job is to record court records, so civil records, criminal records, and land records, as well as the Board of Equalization and manage the county jury pool. That is our 8 to 5 job. And so then to hire, you have to look at cost of overtime for the staff, to do this type of project. But the largest cost is the digitization, it's the scanning of those documents. And I don't want to throw out a number. So I'll just give you a caveat or disclaimer and say that if I recall correctly, it cost us over $300,000 to scan the property records. Could have cost more, but that's just an estimate of what I think it may have cost. I've spoken with some other clerks who have given me numbers there. They're saying, okay, well, I've looked into the cost of scanning our records. I was quoted 1.5 million or 1.2 million. So, but also I negotiated with my vendor. So I use our vendor that we had a long relationship with and not another vendor. So that matters as well. And this was unique for the vendor COT systems as well. So yes, ma'am. Mortgage records, does the records include mortgage records? Yes, ma'am.
Because I've done a lot of research on this kind of document and find that if you look at a mortgage, most of those people back in the old days were up to their eyebrows in debt all the time and constantly having to mortgage their property. So there would be detailed lists included in the mortgage document, and I have a lot of stuff in mortgages that pertains to with names of individual persons, family, clusters of family groups. It's a really wealthy source of information that you can follow one population through a period of time.
Absolutely. So the question, I don't know if you, or comment, is that mortgage records have a wealth of information. And to your point, some of our records, if you type in bank, you might see that the Macon Bank or whichever bank owned enslaved people because someone defaulted on their loan. And so just like when you default on your car, the bank takes it and now the bank owns your 1993 Ford Escort or whatever it is, you know. So if you defaulted on the loan, then the bank took the property back and then you might see the bank selling the property to someone else. So we do have those records as well. I saw a hand.
But these people were all citizens of the state of Georgia.
they were citizens of the United States. It seems like now there would be a way to shift this cost and this massive research. Because I know like in education, we all know that there are counties in Georgia who are so small and have such a lower tax base that education gets to be a problem. So funding. So that funding for this, for some of these smaller counties that might also have had enslaved populations, it's going to be very difficult for them to come up, even though they're on a smaller basis. It just seems to me like now this is a state of Georgia situation to take what you've done as a model and help you continue to work all over the state. Is a national problem. The university, the Georgia State universities, somebody else has to help. And it should be their responsibility. Well, it is their responsibility. You show them how, and it's their responsibility now.
I think that's a great point. Also, there are grant funds that people or counties can apply for or clerks can apply for. I think one of probably a barrier or a challenge is that the clerk of court is elected and that elected clerk is responsible for those records. So a project like this is only important to who it's important to, which is why elections matter. But that is a TED Talk for another day. But yes, ma'am, there should be other resources, there are grants, and that's one of the reasons why I collaborated with Dr. Fontenot and Mercer University, because that was a resource that, we could help each other. He had a project that he had in mind. I had a project that I had in mind, and we worked together. So, but you're right, there are resources, and there should be more of an effort to preserve these records, to protect these records, to promote these records, to publish these records. Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. So why did the record start at 1823? We didn't keep records before because we were not in existence. Bibb County was founded in 1823. So that's when we started. And Bibb County was founded by slicing a little bit of Monroe, a little bit of Twiggs, a little bit of Jones, a little bit of Houston, and one more county that I forget. Peach and Houston.
Yeah.
So we didn't come into existence until 1823. We just celebrated 200 years last year. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Just to go to the original county, if Bibbs County was carved out of Appleton County, those records did not transfer to Bibb. They're over at Appleton County. So that's what you have to do. You have to understand the creations of the county.
Exactly. So wherever your county was formed or carved out of, that original county would have records as well. Yes, ma'am. And then I'll come to you, sir.
I learned earlier this year about they so I live in Fayette County, and I was helping out with the Fayette Historical Society. And I learned that before the AJC and the Fayette News were available, people had to go all the way to Macon and put their news in the newspaper about what they were selling.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that this man named Ted Evans had compiled all the newspapers from Macon, and he has books, and he has since died, and his daughter is selling his book until they're gone.
Wow.
And he's between $15 and $50.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing. And again, Macon was a commercial hub, and we were right there in the middle of Georgia. So people came from all over the state. Exactly. Yes, sir.
I want to thank you very much for bringing up the idea about warfare. And it became a business. It used to be where you'd have a little war and, take captives and et cetera. But then the slave trade came in and really took off, and war became a business.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Whether individuals or families in Macon have been able to take advantage of the resources that you provide.
So the question is whether individuals in the city of Macon have been able to take advantage of these resources to do their search of their genealogy and their history. Absolutely. Again, Miss Brenda Sutton Williams, she's been helping others as well as herself because she's from Macon. And there are a few notable names, and we all, everywhere we're from, there are some notable names in our cities, right? And so there are a few notable names who have been searching. And when we talk about notable names, I have a sidebar. It's interesting, the names of these streets, right? In Macon, there's a street called Napier Avenue. There are several different names of streets and neighborhoods and buildings. Well, when I look at our records, I saw Thomas Napier and I think Leroy, I like to sound fancy, Leroy Napier. And so these Napier brothers were selling hundreds of humans back and forth to each other. And so all my life, I've been driving down Napier Avenue, just thinking Napier sounds cool, right? But when you look at the root of it and the history of it, then you see that streets are named after people who have power, and sometimes power means money and that sort of thing. So, and cities, absolutely, neighborhoods. But there are some families who have been able to trace their history back. And again, using some of the other resources that I listed. So they're starting from the present and working backwards. Okay, my mom and dad are here. They have land here. Maybe they got land from their parents. So my grandparents' property is here. Or maybe, one got divorced and she was married to this other person and their property. So, starting from the present and working your way back to trace your history.
Thank you. I had a question about when you mentioned chain gang, because I watched a documentary, it was called Slavery by Another Name, and it got into how the United States government enslaved Black men by way of criminal crimes being placed against them and charges unwarranted just so that they can get the labor to build these railroads and stuff. So they said when these companies would come in town, a lot of Black men would just get picked up for nothing and end up with a sentence with even no trial. In a lot of cases, their families couldn't find them. So I was just curious when you spoke on that, how do you capture that? And how do you, if someone was looking for a loved one that ended up in that environment, may have never been seen again in some instances, how would they even try to locate those individuals?
So first you would have to see if your clerk's office actually has the chain gang records. I believe those records are indexed, meaning you can search by name in the index. So you can search for, whichever name, usually the index is alphabetized. And so you can look for the name, then look at the book and page and see whatever information is in there. So for example, in our chain gang records, you will see, and I'm just going to use John Smith because that's what's on my mind now. John Smith, Black male, prohibition violation. He had the good liquor. 6 months on the chain gang. Johnny Smith white male, prohibition violation, $50 fine. So, you know, the records just show details of the time. It doesn't show what they were doing on the chain gang. It just said 6 months on the chain gang. And it did show by race, you know, this person, his race, and usually it was men, the race, and usually the Black men had a certain time period on the chain gang, whether it was 6 months to a year or more, and usually the white male would have a fine, a dollar amount. Yes, ma'am.
Those chain gang records, county records or state records?
Those are county records. So the question were the chain gang records, county records or state records. So again, it's within each county, because again, each county has jurisdiction within the walls or boundaries of that county. And so if someone,
Did the state of Georgia have chain gangs, or were they all county? Oh,
I don't know the answer to that one.
Those records that are there here, but they're for the state correctional institution. Now, for the county, it's really interesting book and to go way back, but they're here.
And you know what, that makes perfect sense. And so you're right, because once someone, if you are convicted of a crime and then you're remanded to the custody of the state, to the state penitentiary, then the state would have a record or should have a record. So thank you for triggering a memory. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? I'd just like to thank everyone for having me. Thank you to Ms. Robin for inviting me. Thank you for my captive audience today. Thank you for your great questions. And again, afterwards, feel free to come up and look at a snapshot of the records.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much, Erica. It's incredibly important work that's being done. So thank you for coming to present. Just to talk a little bit about what we have coming up next month, our September 13th Lunch and Learn will be about community engagement practices for preservation and public history by Nedra Deadweiler. And then we're also going to release our save a date for our Archives and Genealogy Day. That'll be coming up on October 12th. So be on the lookout for programming information about that. Always explore our social media pages, and then you can sign up for our monthly email newsletter that we do, just to let you know about what we have coming up here at the archives. If you signed in on the sign-in sheet and you added your email address, you're going to be added. But if you didn't, you can sign up on our website, which is georgiaarchives.org. And then we will share Erica's presentation. What's that? Next. Oh, next slide. Okay. Perfect. So there's contact information for Erica if you have any questions or anything like that. And we will share this presentation on our YouTube channel next week. And so you can find more videos about the archives there as well, including our previous events. Thank you again, everyone, for coming today. And please feel free to stay, come up and take a look at what Erica's brought with her, or stay and chit chat. Thank you, everyone.
thank you.
Thank you.